All right, the structure that we're going for is basically I'm already incorporating for this cloth loop that I'm using is I'm already using the loops that are within the platform itself. And then I'm also adding a loop here and then a loop here. And then the last two ropes that we use to pull everything together are back here and they're incorporated back into it. And these loop or rather these thread through like so as well. Okay, so that's what we're going to do for this design. Other designs incorporate the loops within your weave, and then you could also weave in another loop to tie down your wrap here. So there's lots of different ways I've seen the lacings being handled. So again, out of my research, this is the one that I felt was the easiest and fastest way to do this. There are more prettier and elegant ways to do this, and that's fine too. But I just figured for something real quick and that works and still looks nice, I'm gonna go with this for this design. So this is the one we just finished, and we're gonna use this as the top of the platform. So this is where the sole is gonna go on. A note about that: this C-sole that I got from the hardware store is kind of rough. So, if you're going to go barefoot on this, hopefully you have Flintstone feet like I do and it doesn't really bother you. But if you have real tender soles, then you may want to just wear socks, or you could glue cloth on the top of these. And there's even ways to where you could use old t-shirts to weave this in out so it's nice and cushy. So, I mean, again, this is a matter of just using your imagination of what resources you have around you to create something like this. At any rate, the back two here, these would be in a traditional design incorporated and used this way. So this would be the front of your foot, like so, your toes, and then this would be the heel, and then there would be loops in the back here. Okay, there would be loops here and loops in the back here. That would be traditional, and your toes would kind of dangle over the top. That's the way that they wear them traditionally. So it looked like it'd be too small, when in actuality, that's just actually the way that they're worn. Even in these Zordi that I've got, that's the way they fit. And when I walk, these really kind of dangle over the top of my foot. So anyways, or rather, my toes dangle over the tops. So for traditional design, this would be the way to do it with the last two parts, and these would be your laces. We wouldn't have to cut anything. But for the Zordi that we're trying to make, the Waraji Zordi, or the straw sandals that we're trying to make, we're going to use this as the front, and this looks more like the shape of your foot anyhow. So using this diagram, what I'm going to do is these two that are going out like little antenna, like little bug antennas. What I'm going to do is I'm going to thread these through the top on each side. Okay, and I don't want them. I don't need them very large. I just need them large enough to loop something through. So in the end, I want something that looks sort of like this. Okay, so what's important is to have a tool. This is a chopstick. We'll need this later. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a pair of scissors. And they have a sharp point and they're kind of wide to be able to thread these through here from the back to the front and to make a wide enough space. So if we give that a go on the right side, I'm going to just find an opening spot here, and again, just kind of pry open the space, because I did this pretty tightly. Just want to make a little space. We're going to fill that space, any space that you make, and that way I can now take the this end here and force it through, hopefully. And the good thing, I put tape on it because it slides through pretty easily. Otherwise, I'd really have to work that hole to fit that through. And again, I don't know how very traditional this is. At this point, I'm adding my own embellishment, or just to create a loop in the back. I just think it works. So this is where I'm delineating from the traditional culture, but I'm still trying to be still conceptually accurate. So there, that one's through. And then I want to do the other one the same way. And they kind of almost crisscross. This one back the other way. So almost parallel to it. Find an opening. Almost parallel to the first one, rather. That didn't sound good. Opening. So I'm not breaking straw. Breaking things. Things come apart on that's not good. Okay. Make a little space or hole. And then slide our end through. Best we can. There we go. That went through. There. Make sure this is out of the way. And now I want to kind of eyeball and see about how much I have on the first one I made. Kind of, again, for symmetry, see about how much I need to pull in and work with. That's about right. I'm good enough with that. Now, next one I'm going to do is then work these over their opposites ends going this way, back down, and then we're done. So I'm going to do one. About here is about right. So create space to push the end through. And it's going to be right about here on this. Just creating a space. I'm not cutting anything. Just using a wedge, a blunt dowel, kind of bigger than a chopstick would be perfect for this, but I'm just using scissors. That's fine. I'm keeping them close so they're not cutting anything. And then I can go ahead and force this through. And I don't want to pull it too much where I lose my width on my loop, but I want to make sure it locks. And then I want to do the same thing on the opposite side. Find a space that I can exploit. Create a loop or create a space. Confuse my words a lot. Take the opposite end here, stick it through. And again, these the fact that there's duct tape on the ends of these to keep them from unraveling really helps with this part. Okay. So there we have it. At this point, make sure these are nice and tight and flat down so they don't bother the wear. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you a trick. And I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these links, but I want to take some duct tape and just wrap this around these like so. And then, because what's going to happen later on is for outdoor wear, strictly in the woods or something like that, I would, on the pavement, I would just go ahead and snip these and be done with it. But To wear them in the house on a slick surface, this material is really, really slick, like linoleum, like the kitchen or the bathroom. You just go slip sliding. So I'm gonna put a combination. I'm gonna put a rubber sole on the bottom of these, and that's gonna be a combination of tire shavings, fine tire shavings, and barge cement. Kind of make a peanut butter consistency with a barge cement, barge brand cement. It's a very flexible adhesive, and tire shavings. You can do a search for tire shavings. There's an art supply store that sells it by the pound, fairly cheaply, and you can just make a peanut butter consistency and smear it on here, and you can build up layers. One or two layers on this will be just fine, and it'll keep you from slipping around on the bathroom or the kitchen. So next, what I'm going to do next is just take my cutting tool, and at the juncture where I've got my tape, I just cut in the middle. Now both ends have tape on them so they don't unravel. Just like so. Okay. So this will be pretty much, and so right before I do the adding the cement to it, to the bottom, I'm going to just snip all my stragglers here. I'm going to do this for the top part here. Duct tape to that. And go ahead and careful with your scissors. Don't cut your fingers and snip it off. And then there we are. Just have that there, and later on I'm just going to snip, and as long as everything's tight, everything should stay in place. So the next step now is to add our lacing.